Anita Renwick was born and raised on a mixed cattle and grain farm in southwest Manitoba, where she learned the ropes of agriculture industry firsthand. Anita has completed a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture with a major in Agronomy and a minor in Agribusiness from the University of Saskatchewan. Following her post-secondary education, Anita formed A1 Agronomy to provide growers interested in maximizing the yield of their acres. Unbiased advice, A1 Agronomy focuses on soil sampling, crop planning, and in-season field scouting. So with that, I'll hand things over to Anita, and we'll get started with her presentation.
All right. Good morning, everybody. First things first, it's been a long time since I've been up in front of a crowd like this, public speaking, so please bear with me. I also have a cough, so if that gets a hold, I will just step away for a minute, but I will do my best to get through this, and yeah, open for questions at the end. So, all right, okay, so I'm going to tell you a story about one of the very first farmers that I ever worked with. He was a quiet and thoughtful man who was about to set the foundation for the business that I have today. After a brief conversation, he gave me directions to the field and a quick rundown of his observations. But really, he basically just told me, it's wheat stubble, and I think it would be a good field for this program. So I got the field mapped, ground truthed, and soil sampled. I then sat down with him at a table in his shop to discuss results and his plan to manage the field going forward. Before doing this work, we had discussed the process, what all I would be doing while in the field, and then when I was finished, that I would be able to provide him a copy of his map, of his finalized map and his soil test data. It was the day. I was super excited. So I was going to show him his field-specific SWOT map along with the associated soil test data. I was expecting to review the results with him, answer some questions, and move forward with the management plan I had presented. What I wasn't expecting is the part of the story that had the deepest impact on my life. I gave him a paper copy of his map so that he could look at it while we discussed the particulars. I was going through what it all meant, how certain zones were reflecting differences in topography and elevation, while other zones were really highlighting those sour or saline patches. When he quite literally took the map from me and looked at it in silence for about 5 to 10 seconds. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how long it was, but it felt like an eternity. And then he set it back down on the table. Still without a word, he grabbed a pen and started circling areas he recognized. Keeping in mind we're in the shop at the moment, we're not in the field. So yes, circling areas that he recognized, marking X's, putting down notes. And then when he finally spoke, he said, yes, this happens over here, and yep, the soil changes through here, and yes, there is a ridge along there. It's a little gravelly. Followed by, yes, these are those dang sour spots. Water seems to sit here, and we have had a hard time getting anything to grow. His excitement was infectious. For a split second, I was a bit stunned. Do you remember the first time that you took a new idea to someone on the farm, or maybe in your household? An idea or suggestion that you are so excited about and certain is going to be positive. It's going to be worth implementing and worth changing things up for. You are prepared with a list of reasons and you've got your game face on because you want to make the best first impression ever. And I mean, you are ready. But I didn't have to do that with this farmer. So, as is a common default mode for me, if you don't know me, I smiled and just kind of tried to enjoy the moment because it really was super exciting. He looked up at me, this time in all seriousness, and just said, yes, this is my field. This is a good map. And I mean, that's a true story. My team and I have been working with this particular farmer and his family for the last few years. We continue to learn more about each field. Most notably, we are supporting them with yield increases, improved crop uniformity, wise fertilizer placement, and improvements to their bottom line. I would echo that farmer's statement over and over and over again. These are good maps. They are accurate and representative of what is actually going on in the field from a soil-based level. And as agronomists and farmers alike, we can make more reliable management decisions in the right places within the field while using them. And just like anything, these maps need someone who understands how they work. They need someone who understands soil, soil fertility, crop health, nutrient interactions, how to manage eroded soils, how to manage plant stand establishment. In short, these maps need an experienced, boots-on-the-ground agronomist in order to get the best results. You've probably come across a variety of skill sets in farm operators over the years. So just food for thought, but what good would a brand new X9 combine be, or, make model of your choice? But what good would that kind of machine be to you if you weren't able to find an operator that knew how to operate to get it the maximum investment? If it had to sit or run at half capacity during harvest, that really wouldn't be very good. These maps need someone who understands them and how the system works. This is where my team and I come in. Our agronomic expertise and dedication to our farmers' success is why this farmer's map was so accurate. Hi, that was a long intro, but I'm Anita Renwick, founder of A1 Agronomy, and this is my little family. And at A1 Agronomy, we work with progressive farmers who want to increase their bottom line. By combining SwapMaps technology with our expert agrologists, you will be needing more bin space. Today, I'm going to go over how our process will reduce your fertilizer footprint while adding to your bottom line through the following 3 steps. The first step is our swap mapping process. We assess the current landscape and map the entire field on a 70-foot swath in a truck equipped with a swap box and an RTK GPS unit with a base station to get the most accurate data. We travel the field in its entirety and make sure to travel up and down areas where water may flow. We also double back over any areas that look as though they may be of concern or simply of interest, as our goal is to ensure we have enough data so that they can be confidently placed in the accurate zone. Swap maps are soil, water, and topography maps. We collect data pertaining to the soil and soil texture or electrical conductivity. You may have heard it abbreviated to EC. We also collect information about water and how it will flow through a field, or may not, and this also has a lot to do with the components of soil texture. And last but not least, we collect RTK and elevation data. This allows us to have a map that is built on the most important foundational layers. The second part of our process are the granular customized diagnostics specific to each field. We get there through a process called ground truthing, followed by soil sampling. Ground truthing requires a skilled agronomist who understands the assessment process, and that this process, layered with the SwapMaps technology, creates optimal results. These complement each other perfectly. In the ground truthing process, we take the time that is required to understand the map layers and the particulars of the field that we are ground truthing. This is an extensive and critical part of the process that we take very, very seriously. The ground truthing process, when done properly, ensures that the final map is most accurate and truly representative of the field. The second part of the granular customized diagnostics specific to each field are the soil test results. We sample depths of 0 to 6 and 6 to 24 inches. understanding soil nitrate and sulfate levels to a depth of 24 inches is important. We offer a complete testing option that includes soil organic matter, pH, and residual nutrient levels that cover off both macros and micros, among other pieces of relevant information. The information that we have at our fingertips from a soil test across an accurately zone-mapped field provides an abundance of information to take into consideration, break down, and utilize towards making significant decisions on the farm. If you are going to soil test, this is the way to go. The information that we collect can impact nutrient management, soil and landscape management, drainage management, crop rotation, and herbicide management, to name a few. Each field is treated individually, and a plan is derived from whatever you, the farmer, has for goals for each particular field. Now, if I can just take you back for a brief moment to my story at the beginning of this talk about the farmer who started circling, jotting down notes, and commenting on his field map. The farmer who was impressed with the quality of his results. That conversation took place after the ground truthing and soil sampling processes were complete. These are the kind of results that you can expect too. We also like to have a lot of fun. The third part of the process is where we review all of our findings with you, the farmer. Some I just mentioned. Largely, we are discussing crop rotation, plant stand establishment goals, factoring in unique zone performance while keeping crop uniformity in mind. It is at this time that we will review the map and soil test data for your fields. We discuss nutrient application history and nutrient requirements to reach yield goals. We discuss how to manage areas within a field that may be underproducing, reasons why this is happening, and how to manage this over time. It is important to note that more is not always more. We often find zones within a field that have an abundance of a variety of residual nutrients, usually due to a variety of reasons. And the point of mentioning this is with swap maps, we now have the technology to accurately map a field on a zone basis that provides accurate zone information. Therefore, we have the ability to apply fertilizer more precisely than ever before. This allows us to reduce application in zones where it is simply not warranted and feel truly confident with rates in other zones. With the ever-changing political and regulatory landscape, these tools are tools you will want to have at your disposal. In this stage of the process, we also discuss your crop inputs budget, which pertains to numerous factors. The overall planned crop input investment, the best ROI on applied nutrients, especially if we have to pick and choose. For example, perhaps the planned crop would benefit from higher phosphate rates or higher sulfate rates. Sometimes, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it is about higher N rates, and sometimes it's definitely lower N rates. Alternatively, perhaps the component worth addressing is a micronutrient on a very specific zone management basis. So it's not necessarily that all zones would even warrant any of said micronutrient. Sometimes it can be limited to zone 1 or 2, or sometimes maybe 3 or 4 or 5 zones, but it is rarely the whole entire field. We discuss placement of nutrients and zone-specific rates. More often than not, the whole field does not need to be treated the same from an inputs or fertilizers perspective. What this means is the traditional blanket rate or flat rate that most of us have been utilizing, myself on our farm included, is no longer the best use of resources. This flat rate strategy is leaving areas within the field hungry for more fertilizer, which would be well utilized by the growing crop. And other areas are oversaturated to the point that fertilizer will simply not be utilized at all. Fertilizer that is applied in a zone that is already saturated is at risk of being lost through leaching, denitrification, and volatilization. I'm not sure what my next photo is. Okay. Ultimately, when following our recommendations on a zone management plan, you can confidently plan for, I'm going to start that sentence over because the blipping screen is throwing me off. So, Ultimately, when following our recommendations on a zone management plan, you can confidently plan for and expect crop uniformity and even crop maturity. This part of the process also includes conversations about seeding rates and how we manage crop establishment more effectively. So, if you think about part 3 of the process, which I have just covered, the part of the process where we would review all of our findings and put a plan together with specific recommendations for your fields and your operations. We ensure that the plan and recommendations that you get are uniquely tailored to your farm's needs and will get you closer to your farm's desired outcomes. This requires collaboration with our farming customers, but a blanket strategy just doesn't work. A one-size-fits-all or watered-down solution is not going to do the trick. If you want professional accounting or tailored tax planning strategies, you're going to speak to an expert, right? If you want professional legal advice, you're going to speak to a lawyer, right? And if you want professional medical advice, you'll speak to an expert, right? Your doctor or maybe even a nurse. Oh yes, I can't remember what photos I have in transition here. But you can probably see where I'm going with that train of thought. So if logic dictates to get professional agronomic advice, you would speak to a licensed agrologist that is an experienced agronomist who understands the best soil zone mapping technology available in the industry and that can utilize this technology and this 3-step process to apply relevant and applicable solutions. So, in an attempt to start to wrap this up, I know there's food available all over, but really I am between you and lunch. I hope I have highlighted with my team and I that working with A1 Agronomy is a process, not an event. We are committed to the long term because agriculture is evolving and no 2 years are ever the same. Working together long term is where the greatest results are possible, where the greatest impact on your fertilizer footprint for the better and continuous improvements to your bottom line happen. I have covered the value of the swap maps technology that we utilize at A1 Agronomy. This is a mapping system that is second to none. The zone accuracy is something that we as agronomists in the field see every day. We also hear regularly from our farming customers as to just how much they can trust the system. I have covered the value of having a team of experienced agronomists that are also licensed agrologists. Double bonus, you can come and talk to me about that after if you don't know what that is. And that are working for you with eyes and boots on the ground in your fields that understand how to pair their expertise with the swap map system for incredible accuracy and superior results. And last but not least, I hope that I have conveyed that my team and I are fiercely committed to your farm's results. We understand soil. We understand soil fertility. We understand nutrient relationships and interactions. We also understand how running a successful farm impacts you and the generations that follow, as many of us at A1 Agronomy come from farm families too. We have seen time and time again how the work that we do will reduce your fertilizer footprint and in turn positively impact your bottom line, not to mention your bin space. In short, we would love the opportunity to support you in reducing your fertilizer footprint while increasing your bottom line. Please come and find us at booth 227 in the UCT Pavilion. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Anita? Yeah, I see one up there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the question was asking about ROI on this process, if I've understood you correctly? And data. So there is data out there. I think there are some other groups that would have some published data. For us, we're still working on getting that organized and to be published. What we have right now is mostly anecdotal stories from our producers that do have good news stories. So the reason I didn't bring any of that today is because it's very farm specific. So the farm size, the way that they manage, the type of fertilizer, their overall fertilizer input, there's so many variables between different farming operations. So sometimes it's difficult for us to make like broad strokes. But we do have conversations all the time about this kind of thing because understanding the value and the impact to the bottom line is very important. And one example I would have just offhand is this fall, we had a producer, I think in their particular area, I think their wheat was averaging about 50 bushel an acre, and they had a swap map field kind of placed strategically, not intentionally, but just so happened to be in the middle of a bunch of different wheat acres. And on average, that crop went 5 bushels better. And all season long, they commented on the uniformity and how even everything was, and when they went in with the sprayer, how nice it looked. And then we had the privilege of riding with them at the combine, and it was a really fun day. So right now, those are the kinds of stories that I would have to share with people if you want to come and talk to me about that. But yeah.
Any other questions?
One there, I think. So if I understood you correctly, it was with the use of a swap maps, you were able to reduce or stop applying nitrogen altogether to those problem spots. Is that? Right, okay, so if I heard you correctly, it's a little hard to hear you, but so reducing nitrogen application in problem areas or saline spots, then you can reallocate those nutrients somewhere else in the field, and also then increasing a seeding rate in those areas in hopes to getting something to establish. Correct? Okay, yes, that's real deal.
Any other questions? You mentioned something about in-field crop scouting. So how many times a year would you go out to, say, an individual producer's field?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have 2 different programs right now. So one is a full-time, full-season program. So we're literally there as often as we need to be. If that's weekly, depending on the time of season, if it's insects we're concerned about, then we might be there a couple times a week. And then we offer a peak season program, which then is really we're there at the kind of the peak times of the year. So if it's post-emergence, potentially herbicide follow-up, fungicide, pre-harvest, post-harvest. So mostly just a handful of times for trips to the field, and then the price points would be reflective of that for those programs.
Okay, yeah, oh no, I was just putting his code. Any other questions?
So right now we go all the way to the Paw, Manitoba, and as far west as Ogama, Saskatchewan, and I would say probably Killarney to the east as of right now, and then the U.S. border is our south.